On the news, blunt force. Trauma on impact. Medical examiner unidentifiable. Extreme forces not intact. Anthropological forces. Tattoos, teeth, fingerprints.
Hello, my name is Andrew Barrett, and today we're going to discuss text analysis and intro writing for UIL poetry and prose. The performance you just saw was from junior Andrea Gonzalez performing the teaser of her poetry. Now, before Andrea could get to that point in her performance, there was much work that had to be done within the literature. And a large part of that was analysis of the text. What is text analysis? Text analysis is a broad term for various research methods used to describe, interpret, and understand literature for performance. Now, before we begin, it is important to understand that there is no substitute for the fact that a performer must read their literature many times. But for the purposes of this video for UIL Poetry and Prose Capital Conference, we will break this process down into 3 steps that will also touch on the cutting process. Step 1, read for understanding and climax. The first time you read the script, try to read it in one sitting. Don't focus on anything in particular, just take in the story and imagine it as an audience member might. Pay attention to your reactions. What excites you, surprises you? Then, on subsequent readings, you will begin to analyze the script in more depth. In forensics, we work smarter, not harder. So if this is a piece of literature that has not been cut, start searching for the potential climax of the story you will tell while you analyze the text. Later, you will find this helpful as you develop what I call a long cut, which may be 20 to 25 minutes of a performance. Here are some questions you want to answer as you follow step 1. Do I understand every word in the text? Are there ideas or concepts that I need to research to gain a better understanding of the story? What specific story do I want to tell in my performance? The final part of step 1 is to start diagramming the story you want to tell using the story structure: exposition, inciting incident, rising action, climax, falling action, and denouement. A good point of reference is Kurt Vonnegut's The Shape of Stories. Great book. Step 2, read for character, read for theme. Next, read the story to understand the character you will be playing. Who is this person? What do they want? Why are they telling the story, and why should we care? The why we should care will become vital later on when creating the introduction. Here are further questions you want to answer as you follow step 2. Where is this character or characters? Who are they talking to? How does their location play into this story? What do other people say about the character? What does the character say about themselves? The goal should be to read the target literary work, paying careful attention to the words, actions, and relationships and struggles of the major characters, as well as important minor characters. While doing this, start making a list of potential themes or reoccurring motifs. At this point in the cutting process, you want to have it down to between 10 to 15 minutes of your 7-minute performance. Another great resource for this step is Michael Shurtleff's The 12 Guideposts. Step 3, read for environment, rhythm, and tone. All texts used for UIL Poetry Prose contain patterns of sound, sight, and scene. Look for these patterns in the language and learn to use them, especially with poetry. It is important to address the attitude or mood a poem or prose is attempting to convey. Some can be brooding or grieving, others may have a song-like cadence or rhythm. Here are further questions you want to answer as you follow step 3. Does the literature give any clues about environment, and how will that change the delivery of performance? What situation is the character or poet in? What is the rhythm and tone of the poems being utilized? How will that affect the delivery of the performance? Does the speaker seem attached or detached from what is being said? How do they feel about the topic they're discussing? The goal for this final step is to glean any last bit of information you can use for your performance from the text. Sans the intro, at this point, you should also have your cutting down to about 5 to 7 minutes. Text analysis is an ongoing process that should be practiced throughout the competitive year for a performer. Whether it be in UIL poetry or prose, one should seek to discover new information about their performance using this tool and above all, expand this process any way that benefits their performance. Next, let us examine intro writing.
So I stopped singing in the shower. I kept having to call the plumber to remove the flakes of gold and the rotted lilies from the clogged drain. If the plumber thought that it odd that anyone could manage to spill their entire jewelry box into their bathtub and more than once, then he was too embarrassed to even try to speak to the mute lady. When he was done, I would scribble my thanks onto a scrap of paper and tip him with a golden nugget. What lies behind us and what lies before us are only tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote speaks to me especially in the world where domestic abuse cases are rising due to the pandemic, according to research done by Johns Hopkins University. Told through a fairy tale lens, a young woman escaping her stepmother after being cursed with having to produce precious jewels and gems after she speaks, we're taken on a journey to remind ourselves to never forget the value of our inner beauty, no matter who tries to take it. Precious by Nalo Hopkinson.
That performance was by junior Lexi Martinez, showing us the end of her teaser and intro of her prose. Introductions for UIL poetry and prose are an integral part of every performance and are the lens by which the audience will view the performance. An intro, which should be about 30 to 45 seconds, which should be written only after careful consideration of the A and B category themes and text analysis. The current theme for UIL poetry and prose are "This is me" and "This speaks to me." Let's examine in 4 key steps how to write an intro. 1. The first sentence of the intro should provide a universal theme. The universal theme may be expressed through quotation, theory, or a study. 2. The next sentence provides an explication of the universal theme in association with the prose or poems being used. This final sentence is the most specific to the student's current selection. It provides the particular lesson or moral that the audience will take away from the student's performance of the selection and ties that to the UIL theme. 4. Lastly, the performer states the title and author of the selection. In all interpretation events, the performer communicates the introduction as him or herself. Given that the introduction is written in the student's own, it's typically performed in the student's own voice. At the end of the teaser, the performer will close their binder so as to not draw attention away from themselves or to themselves. The performer then will stand upright in a relaxed, though confident and poised position. It is not enough for the student to simply recite the introduction. This is a critical time for the performer to gain the audience's support and demonstrate their credibility as a performer. Therefore, it is important for a student to give as much thought and specificity to the vocal and physical performance of the introduction as they would with other aspects of the performance. Once the performer has stated the title and author of the selection, they will carefully open their binder and resume their poetry or prose.
And that speaks to me. Clap When You Land by Poet X. When you learn life-altering news, you're often in the most basic of places.
Precious by Nalo Hopkinson. Jude, he used to make this game of surprising different sounds to see what wealth would leave from my mouth.
Thank you for attending this virtual session of the UIL Student Activity Conference. Hopefully, by utilizing these strategies, we can further help create memorable performances and change lives through rhetoric. Thank you.